Good afternoon and welcome to the February 10th Department of Social Services Board meeting. I will note that all members are present, and now I would call the board to order and observe a moment of silent prayer or silent meditation. Amen. Nobody signed up for public comment? Okay, great. Then I would accept a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
And I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
We can approve the minutes of the previous meeting. They are included in your packet on pages 1 to 4.
I move be approved as mailed, Madam Chairman.
And I second.
Okay, the minutes of our January meeting have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. And those minutes are accepted and approved. Items for consent. Angela Hart, our business officer, has prepared some budget amendments for us. We have a Smart Start special funds for $15,000. We have the Casey Family Programs for the Parent Partner Grant for $10,000, and Neighbor to Neighbor donations from GUC in the amount of $4,000. No county funds involved. This will allow us to amend the budget and move forward. If we could have a motion.
I move to approve of the amendments as for the budget as presented, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Second, anyone?
I second.
Okay, the 3 budget amendments have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. And now those have been approved, and we will move into items for report. Today we have a visitor with us. We have Virginia Cooper. She is with the Social Services Commission. She serves at the state level and works to appoint some of our positions and works closely with Raleigh and the county. So if Ms. Cooper would come up and talk with us today, that would be great. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Many of the social services departments around the state don't even know we exist, and it's fairly sad because we have a large impact on what happens in social services. So I'm very happy to be here today to address the board. And this is one of my 14 counties in eastern North Carolina. The commissioners are appointed by the governor, and it's usually through a referral, and generally it's a political referral, like from a congressman or a senator or someone. In my case, it was Congressman Jones's office who referred me to the governor's office. We serve 4-year terms, and we have the power and authority to appoint 2 of your members. There's 3-member boards and 5-member boards. Most of them are 5-member boards. Some small counties still have 3-member boards, and then the commission would only appoint 1 in that case. My appointments on your board are Cora Wichard and Mary Williams. Those are my 2 appointments. And the county commission has 2 appointments, and I believe that would be Mr. James and Ms. Bryant. And then the board chooses 1, which would be Ms. Starkey. So that's how, and it gives you a nice range of people from the community to serve on your board, so that the state's not choosing every member of your board. We are in the process of trying to do better notification in the communities. We're finding that we are not getting out to the community as we would like, so that we have a better, a compilation of people who can make application and serve on these boards throughout the community. So the commissioners right now are in the process of trying to work with the counties to get better notification out into the county, so that we get applications, and that's how we select our board members. We get applications from the county boards depending on which districts we're in. In my districts, I would receive those. I would look at them. I would either call, inquire about the people that have applied, and I would like to have more than maybe 1 or 2 in there to select from, because if I only have 1 or 2, I really don't know whether that person is the best person. So we would like to have at least a better selection. So we're working on that right now to do better notification in newsletters, newspapers, however. And we need to, that was one of the things the commissioners, and all the commissioners have to agree. When I choose and select a person, if they have a question about one of the people that I choose, they may question me about it, and they have the right to veto or dissent from my vote. So all the commissioners have to, well, the majority, let's say the quorum, has to agree. If one person disagrees, that's, they just go down as a protest vote. But most of the time, we all agree. It's rare when the commissioners, because we do our homework to make sure that we pick the best people for your boards. Now, aside from that, one of the things that Jan asked me to talk about was what would be, I guess, some reason why someone would be removed from the board. And I think most of it's self-explanatory: illegal behavior, convictions, unethical behavior, violation of confidentiality, disruption to the point where the board cannot function. So if you have someone who is just, or someone who just can't seem to do what they committed to do, they don't make the meetings, they don't do, then they are not actually participating. So, and that would not be something that would be done just arbitrarily. You would have to have a lot of reason before you would even begin to process somebody being removed from a board. And so, in which, there's a lot of reasons why sometimes there's other circumstances that everyone may not know about. So we just don't say, well, just because you didn't do this or that, we're going to remove you from the board. I mean, it's a very long process, so we would want to be sure that that person's removal from the board was justified. So it's just not something that would be done arbitrarily. And that wouldn't be I only would have the power to remove the people that I appoint. The commission would have the power, and then the rest of the board for who they appoint. So we don't have the power to just remove anybody from this board. So if Coral doesn't behave herself, first of all, I slap her hands, and then we talk. The other duties that we have, and I'm going to try to just do these very quickly because we have a lot of duties. The Social Service Commission does a lot of the rules and the regulations based on the statutes that's implemented in the board, all 100 counties, and then the social services are the ones that do what we have already, decided and adopted on the Social Services Commission for you to do in different programs. Like, for example, we adopt the rules, and I'm going to read some of this because there's quite a few. And I'll read the rules and regulate the government social services programs other than Medicaid based on the general statutes, and these include like the standards for inspection of licensing maternity homes and child care institutions, and rules governing payment funds for private child placing agencies and residential child care facilities, and custody for like the foster care programs. And placement, and then the social services responsibilities in regard to that is to make sure that they're placing those children in homes that are appropriate, and that that they are really monitoring and oversight on the places where they're placing these children, because the Social Services Commission would only hear about it later if something really sad happened, and we don't want to hear anything sad happening. So we really put the emphasis on the social services to put these children in appropriate placements, which of course you already well know. And the standards and inspection of jails, I've never had to do that yet, and local confinement. And I think that's basically probably if the jails would be like for juveniles. I don't think that that's going to mean facilities where they, like out at the Pitt County Jail where they're housing, hardened criminals. I think these would be the facilities where the juveniles are held. And if something isn't right there, then we would be, be looking into that. And we also do, and this is something we haven't really gotten into, but it might be very interesting, standards for regulation of charitable organizations, professional funding councils, and professional solicitors. We haven't even talked about that yet, but I think we might need to. That is something that would be very interesting to look into some of these funding organizations. And we also investigate or social problems in the state, if there's something going on in the state, in any of the social services programs, like if we get a commissioner or someone on what calls and says, you know, something is just real wrong in a particular county, then we would have the power to investigate, subpoena, and look into, you know, what is happening, what's going on there. So then the commission, and we also do hearings. We do public hearings. When there's a new program that comes out, we have public hearings. Like right now, we're doing the Work First drug testing. We're right at the stage now, we're doing, I think, our last public hearing. And that's going to get implemented, and that is really going to be a handful for social services. We really, and it's, when you're sitting up there talking about it, even I got a headache going over all the things that the workers are going to have to do with this drug testing. We even had to decide which drugs that they were going to test for and who's going to do it and how it's going to get done. And if the state just says, here's the law, now do it. And there is so much involved, and there's people. You know, we're not just talking about machines, we're talking about people. And we try so hard to think about, number one, the caseworker, and number two, the people involved. And it's kind of hard to do that when you're sitting up in Raleigh and making these decisions. I did have an opportunity at one time to talk to some of the workers in Pitt County, and that helped me a lot, to talk to some of the people that actually are doing the work. And I was really grateful that I've had that experience, because I really have carried that with me to some of the state meetings when we're talking about, and when Mr. Black, Wayne Black, who is the state director, comes and reports to our commission, and I'll even ask him, I'll say, well, how is this worker going to do this, you know, and he'll say, well, I know, but there's, it has to be done, and that's the unfortunate part. But nevertheless, I'll just give you right now that we will be having a public hearing on April the 15th. That will be our last one on the drug testing to the rules that we have adopted, and then we will adopt the rules on the 20th. And if they're, you know, based on the public hearings, if there's any changes. I know I've covered a lot. Is there any questions? There's so much.
I have some
Yeah.
questions to ask you. The juvenile center out by the airport. I've often wondered over many years, and from what you're telling me, social services has a lot to do with that center. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, you mean the juvenile
Yes,
center?
they have a special building.
Yes.
And I often wonder, they come from all parts of North Carolina, don't they? Not from just Pitt County.
I'm sure they do,
I'm
because
sure
it's
they
the
do
one
too.
facility.
All right,
that
well,
kinda-
who controls that for them coming there? And they had a breakout loose out, they had something to get away not too long ago.
Well,
Who's-
our job wouldn't be in regard to the law enforcement end of it, like breakouts. Our job would be to making sure that the juveniles that are there that are being cared for appropriately, that there's no abuse, or that there is no discrimination, that the things that are there are appropriate for those juveniles that are there. And it's whether they break out or whether that's up to law enforcement. We don't have anything to.
Well, these people are underage, and they're pretty tough. They're not the ordinary kid that we have out here. I don't think.
So I should be glad we don't have to meet there, right?
Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
And I often wanted to ask our manager, what did he know over the years that, because
Well,
the
I think
state
you're-
owns that property and the airport would like to get it, I guess.
Well, I think you're asking me a question about
That you don't
the
know.
enforcement, and our end of it is their
Yes,
care.
that's really what I'm
Yeah,
concerned
yeah.
about.
I have nothing to do with the we'd have nothing to do with
Do
the
with
enforcement. The
that.
care of the juveniles would be our, what we, if there was something going on, abuse or something, then we would need to know about that, yeah.
Well, I won't get involved, I'll just.
No, no, there's no,
Yeah,
wrong
but I was
questions.
often wondering about that, and when you
Yeah.
said that you all did
Yes,
deal with that.
we
that
do, and it's just for their care, to make sure that there's nothing inappropriate or that they're being cared for that, by the laws that, and regulations that we've adopted.
Right.
Yes.
Jenny, how do y'all choose the projects that you want to take on, like this drug testing for the
Oh, no.
Work First? Who assigns you that?
Those are statute, the General Assembly. The Social Services Commission, by law, is to adopt regulations and rules that the General Assembly, when they say the law, this is the law, and it's going to be the Social Services Commission who adopts the rules and the regulations in order to implement that law.
So what is your role in doing that? You're having these public hearings, and what will the end result, will the end result be either that you have this or you don't have it, or how you'll have it?
We're going to have it.
Okay,
It's just going to
so-
be how, we just decide how it's going to get done. And the state director of social services, they usually will draft things for us. And we will look at their drafts, then we'll ask questions, we'll have a public hearing. The first thing we had to do was do temporary rules, because the state legislature said, we want these rules right now. So we had to all come together and do temporary rules. And we had to even, and you just have no idea the complication it is just to get anything done and finally implemented. And we've already been in this a year, trying to get this thing implemented and done. Because of the hearings, it has to go to the administrative office of the courts. All this stuff has to be in compliance with other laws or other organizations. We all have to be in sync. And then the ACLU or somebody else may not like when we have public hearings part of this law, so then it has to go back, and then they have to decide whether we're in compliance and whether we're going to move forward with it. So this public hearing we're having on the 15th is supposed to be the final draft now, and we'd have a public hearing on it. And if we decide we are not making any changes and we're in compliance, the Attorney General's office says it's okay, the Administrative Office of the Court says it's okay, everybody says it's okay, we will adopt this on April the 20th, and then it will get implemented. It will go out to all 100 counties, and this is going to be how you're going to do your drug testing.
Do you have feedback or feed-in from Department of Social Services?
Oh, yes. When we have public hearings, there's a whole bunch of people sitting over
Do
to the
you
side.
have DSS people on your committee?
Oh, yeah, the state DSS people, no, they're not a commission. They're not on the commission.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you have anybody from Pitt County that's on?
Oh, well, anybody from Pitt County could come to the public hearing. If you have something you want to say about it, you're welcome. Those are open meetings. The public hearings are for everyone to come and express your, either protest your likes or dislikes of any of the laws or regulations or rules that we are adopting. So you have, just like the block grant programs, there's 5% discretionary funds, which is over $1 million right now. And all these people want some of that, and we're having hearings about that. And now the courts have gotten involved in it because some people didn't like the way, they didn't think it was fair. It's just unbelievable. But and it's the same with the drug testing. If in Florida they adopted similar rules, and they went to court and they were not legal. So we don't want to do that. We want to have something that will hold up in court.
I have one more question. I've been trying for years to get identification for our food stamps and so forth, such as New York. New York has, you've got to have your picture made. You go there, and this person from New York came in to me and said, Mr. James, why don't you have it in North Carolina, in Pitt County? Why don't we? And I've asked that question, of course, the manager knows this. Why don't we have a form of identification that so these people can't go in there and get the groceries? I got complaints about it yesterday. They go in and get the groceries, they get it, and they go on the outside and they sell them and do everything else. Why can't we in North Carolina have these people that has food stamps to have a identification so that people can't use the card?
Well, you're going to have to go to your legislative body.
Well,
to do
that's
that.
what, this is
Yeah,
where I'm
and-
getting about the
yeah,
politics.
Yeah, and once they do that, then they'll tell us to come up with a way to do it.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah.
A poor dumb person like me can figure that out. My goodness. But anyway, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't
the
understand why we have
well,
so much
the
red
legislative
tape.
bodies have to give us the statute, and then we carry it from there.
Yeah.
And anybody from Pitt County, any of the social services, any of the board can come to any of the hearings that we have in the state. They're open, they're posted on our website. They're posted there for people to come, and you can write letters. You don't have, if you can't come, you can write letters. And then we have a plethora, usually, of written, either, concerns or protests, or, that they don't like certain parts of the statute or parts of the rules that we're discussing. So we have a whole lot of input from other people. But then the commission eventually has to weed through all that and, make a decision that we're going to adopt this or not.
Mary, any questions from Mary, Coral? Ms. Cooper, you said you represent 14 counties. So how many of you are there across the state? How many
There's
people?
13 of us,
13.
one for each congressional district.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we
13
have
members.
13 commissioners for 100 counties. And like I said, there's, and I don't have any problem with any time anybody wants to contact me if there's something that we're working on, or if you want me to come and address a particular, like I said, there's so much today, I'm almost overwhelmed because of the amount of stuff that we do. And anytime you want me to come and address a particular issue, I would be glad to do that. Something like the drug testing particularly, or like he said, some of the regulations or the foster care regulations. And we also do the money that is charged to, I think we have like the payment and the state funds to private child placing agencies. We determine what that amount is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we do. So anytime you would want me to come and just discuss it, because that in itself would be a fairly lengthy discussion.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I hope I haven't overwhelmed you
Thank
today.
you. No, this is very helpful to know that what the state commission does and how big it is. And I mean, 14 counties it's a lot to represent and say grace over in what you do. So,
Well, it's, all of you are ending up doing the same things, however, once we adopt the regulations or the way things are going to be done or implemented, everybody has to do it the same way. It depends on, like, Pitt County, it's a much larger county than Perquimans County or, one of the other counties, but it all has to be done the same in all 100 counties. And so it's, and the drug program's going to be really a big, you're going to really have to, I really feel for you. I really do. So, but it's something the people have wanted. This is a result of the people in the state of North Carolina that said, and they did not want people who were going to get money and spend it on drugs instead of for their
very
children.
similar to Mr. James's concerns. So if enough people would complain about food stamp fraud or an abuse, then you could see that same
Yes,
process happen.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And the next item on our agenda is an energy update from Ms. Gwen Burns.
Wanted to update the board on the low energy energy assistance program, our LEAP program. We were allocated at the beginning of the this year $1,097,372. Remaining funds as of February the 6th was $250,972. Applications that we've approved so far is 3,015. Applications denied is 349. Applications taken at outpost sites or by our community partners is 612 at this point. As of last Friday, we asked community partners not to take any more applications because we need to be able to control the number of folks that are applying, because we are at the point that we're almost exhausted our funding. And probably by the end of February, we will be out of funds, because we were spending pretty much around $100,000 a week at one point. It slowed up a little bit, but we will spend all our monies this year. We have till March 31st to spend the rest of the money. And at this point, it looks like social services should be able to spend the rest of the money without the assistance of the community partners, so that we'll have control over it and not do applications and people expect assistance and then we're out of funds. The community partners, I want to thank them for all of their hard work and dedication and commitment to our partnership, to partnering with DSS to help us out in taking our applications. And I wanted to mention that the community partners were Pitt County Council on Aging, Zion Chapel Free Will Baptist Church in Ayden, Community Fellowship Ministries Church in Farmville, Bethel Resource Outreach Program in Bethel, Rebuilding Together, Pitt County Intergenerational Community Center in Greenville, Churches Outreach Network, Greenville Community Center in Greenville, Freedom Family Foundation in Winterville, and Oakmont Baptist Church in Greenville. So they partner with us, and we do plan to do a debriefing with them and having them to come in and talk about taking the applications, what we can do better in the future, and celebrate them partnering with us during this time. All applications now are being taken at the Department of Social Services, and if you go, and the applications are being taken at our off-site location, the old Strive building at 1710 West 6th Street. And the phone number to reach us is 252-902-1110. And our business hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. So all applications for the LEAP program are being taken by DSS at this point.
Only at the 6th Street location.
Only at the 6th Street location. I asked the community partners to post on their door that they are no longer taking applications, and on their websites or however they get out their information, and to inform people that applications are only being taken by social services at this point at the 6th Street location. I also want to update you on the LEAP, on the SIP program, our Crisis Intervention Program. We no longer have any funding for crisis intervention at this point. We started out with $730,428. We received monies from Energy Neighbor of $1,922, Neighbor to Neighbor $4,000, Share of the Warmth, Energy Progress Energy $63.50. And we have spent at this point $725,371.38. We have approved 3,187 applications and denied 1,133 applications for the SIP program.
So that, unless you were to get an additional allocation, that program is done.
Right, that program is done and we have been told by the state that we will not get any additional funding this year.
Any questions for Gwen? Thank you for your update, and sounds like it's been a busy season. The next item on our agenda, it's Brian Averett with an NC Fast update.
Good afternoon. Do we have a handout for that?
Okay, the report on how we're doing with our Medicaid
That's
project. This, we're focusing just on our Medicaid applications because the Food and Nutrition Services Program is current. In January, we processed 718 applications. We took 525 Medicaid applications. So we're at a point now where we are processing more applications than we're taking because there are applications pending. We are seeing results of having some of the new staff that have been trained that are on board. They are having an impact in this process, so this is a positive sign. We have 1,521 applications pending. 390 of those are past due. The review's due by February 28th, and of course, we've talked about this the previous 2 months. This includes any reviews that were not completed in January that were extended into February. So by the state extending the cases, the reviews still have to be done, which is what we're working toward, but when the cases are extended, the client does not lose Medicaid eligibility. In January, we completed 1,089 Medicaid reviews, and as of today, we had completed 983. So you can see that we've almost completed as many by February 10th as we did the whole month of January. So the process that we're using and how staff are divided into getting the work done, we have realized that in order to get this done, it's better if we divide the labor, have some prep cases, make the case decision, have some specialize and focus on keying the reviews in because of the length of time it takes to key a case. So we've got some that are specializing in keying, some that are specializing in prepping cases. So we attribute our increase in speed of processing to making this change. And one other thing too, we have 2 employees that are on loan to us by the Register of Deeds. And we appreciate Lisa Nichols allowing them to come and help us with this. They are involved in the data entry process. They have finished up their training on keying, and they are now starting to key reviews. So they'll be added to the keyers that we already had in place. So this is the report of the NC Fast update related to the Medicaid backlog.
All right, Brian, you said you had 390 past due. How long, how much past due are they?
Those are applications, and most of those applications are December forward.
So it doesn't
Some might be as far back as November. November would probably be the farthest back that most of
So
those
that's
applications go.
You've got everything up until November.
Right, that's the applications part. Now, the reviews, that's a separate project.
You know, I think at the last meeting, I asked you how much would your good employee, how many would they do? You said about 20, best I can remember. And how much would they?
I think 12 in a day was what we said. That
Yeah,
would be
for
the
the
high
average.
end. Right, that would be the high end, 12.
12 to 15.
12 to 15. 15 is very high.
But then those that were down low, are we working with those people to improve them to come up?
Yes, we are, and we have seen some progress. We have seen some progress in the productivity increasing with some of them. We have, and some of that is attributed. Some of those that were having more difficulty are doing better.
You know, I learned a long time ago, a happy employee is one that understands what they are doing.
That's correct.
They are able to complete their job. I have that in my business all the time. If somebody doesn't really understand, I mean, and we want to help these employees, we want to get them on up to par.
And
That's all right.
okay, and because of the length of time it takes to key one of these, we felt that it would be better to, at this point, split into 2 groups and focus on one function.
I want to make sure that we use Pitt Community College in every way that we can. We're paying the taxpayers are paying, then this is one of the uses that we can get from them.
Yes, and we'll be meeting with Mary Paramore. She's the director of the program at the community college that the Small Business Center, and our plans are to work with her for the new group that'll be coming in, the next group that will be coming in.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know we had an extended conversation last month over this, and I was interested in just being curious about what the training was like. And I'm wondering, is that training still, I know, I think last month you said it would be okay if I could just sit in and kind of audit. Is there a schedule or something that I can plan to do that?
We do have a schedule. We've got a group that Mrs. Revilla's going to be working with, and the training encompasses a lot of different areas. If you just wanted to be exposed to how the NC FAST, the technical piece of that works, you would want to look at that, because it involves program policy, it involves customer service items, it involves the technical piece of NC FAST as well. So it is broken out into different sections.
Can you get that information?
I can let you know when she's ready, when she'll be doing the NC FAST piece for the new employees.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. And there was another question that we discussed, and that was, when these people are being trained, is there any sort of a proficiency rating they need to reach? And it sounds like that's not really relevant to being hired. And we found out this is going to have to happen at the state level. So maybe with Jenny here, maybe
That's
she
right.
could use her influence somehow, or give us some wisdom on what she knows about that. As far as the training, is it possible for trainees to reach a certain proficiency level before they apply for the position, so that they're already kind of up and running in order to keep the speed up?
Yeah. Like the Board of Education, teachers and so forth, they have,
Well, that is certainly, something when we talked with Mr. Black, who's the state director. Oh, I'm sorry. This is really something that, that most of the social services, if there's a concern or something that we can help with, and we go to our meetings and we see Mr. Black and we say there's a concern, or, can we do something to make things better? This particular thing, we get reports on all the time, and it doesn't get better somehow, and we're hoping that it's going to soon. But we can do that. If you just let me know sometimes what your concerns, that I can take to our meetings and present to Mr. Black. If something that can make your programs work better, please let me know what they are, and then we'll see if there's something we can do to help.
Well, is this something that would qualify for you to take back then? Because
yeah,
just they have to have a proficiency rating to even apply.
yeah.
This is something, when Mr. Black reports, to us, again, he's got so much that he reports to us. So it is probably that some of these more, specific things he may not address with us. But if we ask him about it, then he can.
Brian, there's one, I want to follow up on. There's one more thing, NC FAST, isn't that a combination of food stamps and Medicaid, employees being able to take and to do both of those on the crossover? And that's where we need the officials that she is talking about.
Yes, it is. It is Medicaid and food and nutrition
The
services.
two for your NC FAST.
That's
on that.
correct. That's
And
correct.
I think that's the thing that we need, what she has suggested would really help, not only this department, it would help this statewide.
I thought the
If
state was
we
already
had these
doing
people
it.
kind of up and running when we get them, and we don't have to take and spend, 6 weeks to train them and stuff such as that. That's the reason I want Pitt Community College to be more involved in what we are doing.
If you will just give me, whatever your concern is, and when we have our meeting, I will definitely bring this up. And if this is something that could be implemented,
Yeah, well, that's- that was
statewide,
good.
if it would, make things work better, then we certainly are all for it. And it's something they can at least look into.
I thought the staff was already doing universal.
On the intake part,
Intake
on the
and-
intake side, when a client comes in, they see one caseworker, and that caseworker takes the application.
That's what I was thinking.
But on the
myself.
review part, we're not there with that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the client having to come in, the client sees one person to apply now. They don't have to go apply separately for Medicaid and then see somebody else for food stamps.
The reviews are quite
Reviews are
different, and
still-
they gotta keep it separate.
That's correct, at this point.
At this point, and because we've been so focused on the Medicaid reviews, we've done some cross-training, because our goal would be to get those folks universal.
Okay.
But you can only accomplish so much at one time before you overwhelm staff, and they're pretty overwhelmed just getting what they know done. The review folks that are not trained in Medicaid are helping in other areas with the project to get this caught up. So from that standpoint, they're learning some things, but they are not as cross-trained as the intake folks have been.
Well,
We're working there.
As it gets warmer one day, and I look at the banked compensatory time.
Right.
And do you foresee the effect of the using that compensatory time as it relate to getting behind and falling
Right, we can talk about
down
that.
in,
We're gonna,
in production?
yeah, we'll talk about that some more. But no, I mean, folks have to schedule use of that
Right.
time, and so, granted, if there were huge amounts to be done and too many people took off, that could be a problem, but we would work with them around scheduling that, so that should not be a problem, okay? And we'll talk about that a little more when we get to that,
Okay,
that
'cause,
section.
you know, that's
Yeah.
a lot of bank
Right,
time, and
right,
if it's still
right.
going up,
Right, and it will continue to go up for a while.
Yeah.
Let me say that the Office of State Personnel, they have a State Human Resources, I think is their new title, is who determines the job descriptions, the competencies, the education, the skills that folks have to have when they come in to this agency to meet minimum requirements. And so that would be the place that we would probably go to have those kinds of discussions about that. And they are at this point beginning to have a conversation about studying how the universal worker concept is gonna work and how that is gonna impact classifications statewide. What does that need to be classified as? How is that gonna change things? But they're just at the beginning stages with that.
And I think it's great, Brian, that in basically 7 workdays, you all have accomplished what you did throughout the full month of January. I just know that unfortunately, that pace has to continue if we're ever gonna catch up those 5,100 reviews that are due
That's right.
by the
That's
end of the
correct.
month. You know, back to Ms. Williams' comment about compensatory time, you know, I understand staff is working and right now they're all working hard, but we have to get to where we can see a light that says we are caught up and we can maintain being caught up and let people go home at 5 o'clock and have a reasonable expectation that they can take a day off. And that's the point I think I was trying to make last month, was with the new positions you've gotten, when everybody's finally on board and trained, do you see the day coming where we, A, get caught up, and then B, stay caught up, so that staff gets their after-hours life back?
Yes. We've been able to do it in food and nutrition services. We've sustained that, and I think once we get this to the similar point, we should be able to maintain it.
In fact, our applications in Medicaid are getting, are pretty close to that point, and if it wasn't for the fact that we needed them to help with this review piece, they would be able to do, to go home, so.
every case is not straightforward and cut and
No.
dry. There are some complicated
Right.
cases. Now, are these separated by complication or straight cut? Because when you're looking at Medicaid, you're talking about the possibility of life-threatening situation or perhaps some concerns as to whether or not the recipients is being able to get the medication they need for doing it. And is that in here someplace, and at what point is it?
Yes, we can escalate a case. If there's a problem in the system with a case, it's difficult, it's not processing the way it's supposed to process, we can escalate that. There is a process, the help desk in Raleigh helps us with those. And if it's something that's a critical situation, with a procedure that's gonna need to be done that can't wait, or medicine that has to be obtained right now, those can be escalated and those are prioritized.
There was in the past, there was a concern about doctors getting their pay. Is that resolved, or is there still a concern involving that?
I'm not hearing as much about that now. That doesn't mean that there may not be some issues, but we're not getting calls that's not happening.
In the region, there was a concern at one time about that, so I was wondering, is that resolved?
Well, I'm not getting any calls about that particular issue.
Now, from time to time, we're still getting the problem of NC Tracks and NC Fast talking to each other.
Oh.
You know, it can be
And
done
lately-
in our system, but may not be transitioning over to the
So there's
doctor's
still some
system. So
bugs.
that does happen sometimes.
Lately, it's been more with the pharmacies, trying to work with the pharmacies.
And Brian, of the close to 1,000 that you've done in the last week and a half, did we pull and do all the easy ones, or are we doing them as they come in a stack?
No, they're not all the easy ones. They're
Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't do all the easy ones, and what's left is the ones that
Yeah.
are gonna slow
Yeah.
you back down
Yeah.
again.
No, we're taking the oldest stuff first.
Okay.
And it's a mix
So
of
you're
everything.
just coming to it as you get to it.
Correct. It's a mix
Okay.
of everything. That's correct.
Brian,
Yes.
I have to ask this.
Okay.
Are foster children included in all of this, these numbers and?
Any reviews that a foster child will have are included in the numbers. We have one person, one person is designated just to work with those, so that if there's an issue, that person works with the social workers in foster care. They communicate, so if there's an issue with one of those, we can go ahead and get it taken care of. And one of the new positions that's coming in, we're also gonna have a second person trained to work with those. So those are handled by one individual now, will be handled by two. So that's,
So I don't have to worry about foster children.
no, you don't have to worry
Well,
about foster
I
children.
can say
That's-
we do have one case that right now we had to elevate this
Don't make
week.
me worry now.
That we had to elevate this week to the head of NC Fast because we're having significant problem getting that child certified for some reason. It's not taken. And so they are working that from Raleigh now to try and help get that resolved. So they do fall into the mix from time to time, but they quickly get elevated. Okay, we're gonna take care of them.
Any more questions from the board? Then, Brian, from the board's perspective, please make sure your staff knows that we are thankful for the extra effort and the commitment that they have to getting us caught up. And please let this board know if what you have isn't working and we're not gonna get there. Because with budget time coming up, I mean, now's the time to find the solution and identify the solution, because the ultimate goal is to get caught up and stay caught up for the staff and for the consumer.
I will share that with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Even if it isn't at a meeting, call us before.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an item for decision. Gwen, you have oh, sorry, I'm looking down there for you. You have a fraud policy that I think you want to review, and then we need to take action on that policy
Right.
at the close of it. Okay.
I want to present to you today the claims management plan or fraud plan for Pitt County. We, in Pitt County, this is our first official fraud plan. We have been developing this fraud plan for some time. And I wanted everyone to know that we have always investigated fraud. And we've required people to be accountable for their fraudulent activities. We do have a program integrity unit at Pitt County Social Services, and there are 2 income maintenance investigators. If you all would come up, please. I wanted the public to see who they are today. This is Karen Johnson, who's one of our investigators, and Scott Beeman. These are the folks who investigate fraud for us. And we just have 2 of them in Pitt County. Thank you, guys.
Is that enough?
All right. So the overpayment report that you have in your board packet each month reflects the work that these 2 investigators do for the agency. The state is now requiring that every county have a fraud plan. and that fraud plan be approved by the Social Services Board. Being presented to you is Pitt County's fraud plan, and it has all the state and the federal requirements and the process by which we meet those requirements. That's what you have in your board packet. But I'm not going to go through that plan step by step with you, because that's just our process of how we do our work. And that's had to be included in the plan to meet the requirements. But in addition to the fraud work that we are doing, what we're going to be talking about that's different about our fraud work at this time is that this fraud plan that you have in your board packet, we are going to be looking at cases of fraud that meet the criteria that would involve law enforcement or the district attorney's office for prosecution. So we are now talking about fraud that meets a certain level and going forth as a county to prosecute those cases that meet that guideline. I want to go back and if you look, you have your PowerPoint, and just talk about a little bit about the claims management plan or fraud plan. The purpose of the plan is to ensure that all our public assistance programs ensure the integrity of the program, and is to protect the agency against claims of discrimination around selective prosecution or folks claiming that we don't treat everyone the same. And also is to make sure that our county policies are clear and that our workers adhere to the county policies. There are 3 types of claims, and when you get your overpayment report, you are looking at those 3 types of claims that are being established by the Program Integrity Unit. The first type of claim is an administrative error, and we call these are AEs, or administrative errors, and these are errors that are made on the part of the worker or on the part of the state. The worker is the one that might have overlooked something in the file, or there was an issue with the case and the client was given benefits when they should not have been, but it was our action or inaction in the case that caused it. And the state could also cause an agency error. For instance, like if the state issues EBT benefits, if they do it twice in 1 month by mistake and the client doesn't give the money back, then that's a state issue, but the client still has to pay it back. Doesn't matter who made the mistake, the state or the county, the client has to pay it back, because we look at how those benefits, who used those benefits. We also have inadvertent household errors, and those are household's misunderstanding or an unintentional error. That error was made, but nobody intentionally did it, and it's proven that it wasn't intentionally done. And then we have intentional program violations. Now, these are the cases that we are talking about that could rise to the level of prosecution. We're not talking about the agency errors or the inadvertent household errors. We're only talking about the intentional program violations that could rise to the level of prosecution. And intentional program violations are when the client intentionally failed to report information or misrepresented their household situation or intentionally misused their benefits. And we can show that they intentionally did this. So those are the 3 types of claims that are established by the Program Integrity Unit. Now, once we get a referral for a claim, because these referrals have to come into our unit. We don't go out and, I also need to say, I'm the supervisor of the Program Integrity Unit. I didn't say that, but we don't go out and find fraud. For referrals are made to the Program Integrity Unit, and we have 30 days to key the referrals into the state system so we can track the claim. And once we key the claim in one of these AEs, IHEs, or IPVs that I just talked about, once we key that into the system, we have 180 days to investigate and enter the claim into the state system. So we also have 9 different levels of disqualifications for intentional program violations. You will move to the next slide.
Before you go on, may I ask you a question right
Yes, ma'am.
here? With the, the intentional program violations, is there a dollar amount level or whatever?
We are going to get to that
Okay, all
in
right.
a minute.
I was
The
just,
dollar amount level.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
It can be a $1 and be an
That's what I'm
intentional.
talking about.
It can be $1 and be an intentional program
Okay.
violation.
Yes,
So it could be any amount.
okay, okay.
But you're asking, is there a dollar amount where we start to look at prosecution?
Yes.
Or whatever? Okay, I am gonna get to that.
But I wanted to know about all of them, but so she just answered
Okay.
that part, but then I wanted, okay.
Okay. But there are disqualification penalties for the intentional program violations only. And there are 9 different levels of disqualification ranging from 12 months to permanent disqualification for food stamps. Okay? And cases can be referred for prosecution in specific situations. If you look at your plan, the plan that was presented to you presents an amount of $5,000 or greater for prosecution. That's what the plan presented to you says. But we also have continued to look at whether $5,000 is where we want to look at in terms of it being referred on for prosecution. So we also looked at the felony level, and the felony level is at $400 for fraudulent activity, as far as the going into court. And we met with the district attorney on yesterday. We met with the district attorney, and the district attorney looked at this felony level of $400, and we looked at other different levels in between the $400 and the $500 that is currently in your plan. And the district attorney is recommending that for prosecution, that in our plan, that we set that monetary limit at $1,000. Because anything from looking at the prosecution of the case, who would be involved, the filing fees to file with the court, anything below $1,000 would not be cost effective to pursue. So she's recommending that where you have written in your plan the $5,000 or greater that we will pursue, that we change that to $1,000 or greater that we will pursue, and that is what we will present in our plan.
That satisfied law, or is a law at that level? I know the DA recommended it.
Yes.
And I'm curious about why I went to 5,000, because the $1,000 sound good, but why did you select the 5,000?
Well, if you look in your information, you also have statistics that we presented to you from the Program Integrity Unit.
This sheet?
Yes,
Okay.
that sheet has our statistics on it, and we look back over a 3-year period, to look at the number of intentional program violations that were established. Over a 3-year period from 2012, 2013, and 2014, we had 9 intentional program violations that were established. And you can see when they were established and the amount of each of those claims. Out of the 9 intentional program violations established during that time period, 3 were over $5,000. But if you look at the numbers, 5 would meet the criteria of the $1,000, I believe.
Well, and I think it's important to look at how many were in the calendar year 2014. And 50% of 2014 was over the $1,000 limit.
Yes.
But at this point, we only pursued 1 of them out of 6 instead of 3 out of 6. So I kind of like the DA's recommendation to use the $1,000.
Because these are intentional.
Right.
Yes, these are intentional violations.
Yeah.
And the 400, we talked about the 400, but from a cost-effectiveness standpoint, that probably, I mean, we could pursue those folks in court
That's
if we chose to, but it, with all the folks that would be involved, we would
Yeah.
still pursue them administratively, and they could still be disqualified, but it would not have all of the other people involved. And so from a cost-effective standpoint, that was part of the DA's recommendation too.
I like the
But you get them, what have you done? How many of them is able to pay it? All
If
you're
you
doing
look-
is spinning your wheels.
Well, if you look at the bottom of the page, Mr. James,
Yeah.
we gave you our numbers of the intentional inadvertent household errors, how many were established each year, and how many agency errors we had each year.
Yeah.
Down at the very bottom, we give you the total number of claims established, the dollar amount
Yeah.
of those claims, and then the dollar amount that was actually collected is in this column over here, and then the total incentive to the county.
But how you gonna justify this is just you get them out of the program. Don't let them be a deadbeat. Those people are poor. I hope you're not getting
Right.
those that's got so much. And, but, maybe you can get, where I can't get money, maybe you can get it. But the best thing to do is get them cleared up.
Right.
It looks like Mr. James, it looks like they're getting, look at that total amount collected. That's a sizable amount of money.
Yeah, you're collecting it. Is the court getting it at, or who's getting it?
Well, at this point, the court is not involved. What happens
You're
is
getting it
the
locally.
federal government, that next to the last column where it says total dollar amount collected, like for last year, for 2013, 2014, we collected $136,059.73.
That's pretty good.
$22,342.70 went to the county. Part of it goes to the federal government, and then part of it comes to the county as an incentive.
What are you doing with it? Say,
It
does
goes
come
back to the-
county,
when
the
it goes to-
finance department, do you get it?
It goes
you
back
get
into
it?
the general
budget.
fund
It's a
for the
revenue.
county.
Goes in your budget.
No, sir.
It's a revenue to our budget.
Yeah,
Correct.
It's a revenue to our budget.
Which then reduces what they need to necessarily ask for from the general fund.
Yeah.
We
So you
have
can
always
use that to hire
anticipated,
people and things such as that. Is that what
we
you're
have
saying?
anticipated every year some amount of incentive.
yes.
Gwen, if I thought that somebody was misusing food stamps, would this be the kind of thing that you would even be interested in? Or are you talking about more blatant violations?
No, we receive reports from the public about misuse of food stamps. It could be misuse of any of the resources in the county.
So it qualifies for an investigation?
Yes, yes. We receive phone calls, we receive written documentation from people on the website about misuse, and the investigators look into it and write it up as a referral and investigate it.
And would that reflect some of the money that y'all recoup?
Yes.
From this, you processed 259 people to get that $136,000, and am I looking at it right?
Yes, sir.
That many people, and that's all the money, I don't call that such a high, from 259 people.
But Mr. James, you
Yeah.
only have 2 investigators.
I don't doubt that. Wait a minute, I agree with you 100%. But what I'm saying is, you got a lot of them, just a little money, that's all you get. They're poor, that's what I'm talking about, they're poor people.
But the folks that we are going to take to court,
Yeah.
we're not talking about taking everybody to court. We're only talking
Because
about the
you're not
ones.
gonna get,
Right, we're talking
You
about the
just-
ones that we show have intentionally
yeah.
defrauded.
Who does all of this work? Does these 2 investigators do all of this work for these 259 people? Who does the investigating?
They do. Those 2 investigators do all of that work. And not just these 259 people, we also have to investigate claims sent to us from the state. Every time there's a hurricane, and we do the emergency food stamp program, and there are violations in that program, the state requires us to look at those people first before we do the ones in Pitt County. We got over 800 cases from the hurricane that these people did. That's not even reflected
And
in their numbers.
these are not active cases, these are cases that you made some collection on.
Right.
So there could be an even greater number of cases in
Yes.
some stage of the process.
Well, I was gonna ask the question, you have 2 investigators, how many cases do they investigate each year? But what you're saying is, there's hundreds of them. I don't see how they can do it, the job. I
Coral?
mean, my goodness.
I guess I'm just piggybacking by asking the question of, it seems to me that we're a little bit low-staffed. And I bet they could enjoy some help.
2 or 3
And what
years
is the
ago, I was told
possibility of,
They didn't have anything much to
you
do.
know, what is the
I don't get this
staffing
deal.
to make this more of a realistic, you know, successful program?
We are asking, I think we'll be asking for in current budget, some additional investigators for fraud.
What is,
And actually, we did ask in the 2012, 2013 budget cycle for an additional investigator, and we didn't get one at that time.
My
You didn't have but one
outside
for a
comment.
while, did you?
Right.
A few years ago, you didn't have but one. Am I
Well-
wrong?
I think
My
it's-
outside comment to Ms. Elliott before all of this is say, them 2 just handle all this. Is that enough?
and what is typical for a county the size of Pitt? If you were to look at other counties that carry the same volume of services, how many investigators might they have compared to the 2 we have?
I think they will probably have at least 5 or 6 investigators.
Well,
And
you used to have
that's
4, you
public
told me.
record.
Yeah, we did at one time had 4 people in the unit. And when one retired, we lost that person. And then, Mr. Beeman was upgraded. And then because he was doing the accounting process for the unit, and we switched the accounting over to Ms. Cannon. And then now she keeps up with all of the numbers and
So
everything.
that he can focus on.
So he can focus on investigation.
Are they out in the field?
They do go out in the field. They do go out and make home visits when they need to. Sometimes it's a matter of determining what the household composition is, and you're not gonna get that unless sometimes you visit the household. We don't do that very often, but I think we've done it twice in the past year or so.
What's the progress of employing people to help them? To
We
get
are
up to
going,
that 6-person magic number?
we're going to be asking in the budget for additional folks to help to work in the fraud unit. At this point, I don't know how many we will be asking for, but we are going to have that in the budget.
But each month, we get this paper,
Yes, sir.
and I don't see any kind of money you talking about All right, this one right here, overclaim the client's $367. All right, there was one $6,600, that's up to.
Right.
Not the investigators, that's the employees we got working here, should be on the ball and find out who this 6,000, that's a lot of money. So they-
Also, on that report, remember, Mr. James, I told you, if it's an active food stamp case, then what happens is that they receive a, reduction in their food stamp allotment based on that money amount. See, some claims are settled that way. If they have to pay it back and they are active in food stamps, their food stamps allotment is deducted 10% each month till it's paid back.
Yeah.
Then there are other ways that we also recruit. We also take cash payments.
Yeah.
Some people enter into agreements to pay us back. They pay us back on a monthly basis. If they miss 1 month, it automatically goes into tax intercept, and then your taxes can be intercepted. I think I'm on this side.
Do you garnish the wages?
Do
Yeah, we
we?
can.
No, we do not
Is
garnish
that a law
any
that you
wage.
can't do that and so forth?
It would have to be ordered by the court for garnishment of wages.
But they don't do it for the county.
You're authorized by general statute to do wage garnishment.
Is that way it was?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Right.
So Gwen, if you had a case where they took a reduction in food stamp, in their food stamp allowance to repay it, that's not reflected in the total collected, because that's not pure cash back in the door?
Right. That's right.
It is
It is
included? Okay,
We see those all the time.
okay, that's what I was just trying to decide, is if that dollar amount was just total cash or cash plus reduced benefit values.
It's
Okay.
everything.
And we also, monies are recouped from the NC Educational Lottery Intercept, and also reduction of Social Security benefits, not SSI, but Social Security. So there are different ways that we recoup monies when fraud has occurred.
So these would be the methods you all would continue to employ for the smaller dollar amounts that you didn't take
Yes.
and pass on to the.
These are the methods that we've always used. What's new about this is the court piece that will involve law enforcement and the district attorney.
Okay. And sometimes when people see you're willing to take that step, it may cause the next person not to. It hasn't, sometimes that has an unintended benefit.
Hopefully.
Right.
I looked at this claims management plan.
Yes, sir.
That's, doggone somebody, that's pretty complicated.
Yes,
About
it
6
is.
pages.
It is.
I'm
And
happy
we,
to see a
we included in that plan what the state requires to be in there and what the federal government requires to be in there.
I'm
And
happy
we
to see a policy.
covered every area that was needed in there. And what you are looking at in that plan is the process that we go through to, manage these claims that are set up and to process and try to recoup the monies back.
I was saying, I'm happy to see a policy. I'm happy to know that there's a policy before us on this board.
So at this point,
At this
are you
point.
ready to make a motion?
I am certainly ready to make the motion that we adopt it.
And that is with the change?
The 1,000, oh,
With the
absolutely.
1,000?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so to adopt the fraud policy with the referral to the
Yes,
DA at the
yes.
$1,000 level, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have multiple seconds. So, any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the fraud policy as presented with the $1,000 referral limit to the DA, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You have a policy.
Thank you.
Go forth, investigators, and investigate.
A good policy.
Next item on the agenda is some information from the director.
Right. One of the things y'all had asked for last time was an update on how much overtime we were spending in the Medicaid backlog project. And you can see that there was very little we paid out pretty much prior to our start up again in January. In January, we banked 1,869, almost 1,870 hours of comp time. And so that is basically 31.7 hours per worker. As you heard from Brian, we had 1,089 reviews completed in January. And again, we are in 7 work days, almost to that same figure again. So, you know, we are very hopeful that we will be very close to where we need to be shortly.
You got the hours, that don't mean anything to me. How much money?
Well, that,
They didn't
Money
pay
lady.
anybody.
you know, we
Well,
haven't
if
paid
they're the
anybody
hours,
yet,
you
but
can be
it
anything.
is in fact, obviously an obligation that the county is gonna be taking on, and it is something to be concerned about. When we, paid it out in the past, Angela probably can tell us about how much it would cost us, and I hate to put her on the spot, and if you can't, we will bring that back to you, sir, next time.
Well, that's what we want. I want, hours can be minimum wage, or it could be $25 to $50 an hour.
Well,
So
these
I want
folks
the
don't make
total
quite that
amount.
high, but yeah.
Yeah, they're not that high. It's, with the highest balances that we have right now, we're looking at a payout would be $47,000.
47,000.
Right.
Pay it all down to
Pay it
zero.
all down,
Everything
that's
off.
right. That's not counting any overtime to go forward. But that would also be eligible for that 75% Medicaid reimbursement as well. So it wouldn't be that, it would only be 25% county cost.
Mr. Manager?
Scott, did you,
I thought we were looking at several scenarios in terms of paying past balances down as well as 32 hours going forward. So that $47,000 represents what period of time?
That's the ones that have 50 and above, that has, it's already been logged on the books.
Okay. We're looking at using lapsed salaries to pay
Right.
it down, but again, it is 75% reimbursable, but there are several different scenarios, again, we're looking
But
at.
that would bring all employees down under the 60 hours that is in
Right.
the personnel policy and down to 50.
And most, there's just a few employees
Right.
that are really high. Most of them really are down in the 30s or so range right
We've
now.
only got 14 employees that are up above the 50-hour range.
And
that we're
those
talking
aren't
about
just
paying.
in income maintenance,
No.
those are services also.
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
a bigger part, total, agency-wide.
Yes.
how many of them are taking their work home with them now? I mean, I'm not against that, I'm for that. How many employees have their computers and so forth that they can do work at home?
We have 4 staff that are based at home now in income maintenance.
Do they count that as overtime, or is, how does that work?
No, they do not. They're working their 8 hours a day, that's
And
all
just
they're,
so that
that's all they're
fits
responsible
right in,
for.
okay.
Right.
All right, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing is the vacancy report. You've got that in your packet, I think it's item 18. Right now, we have got a recommendation made for the paralegal position, so that one's about to be filled. You can see that we are advertising or have filled or are interviewing the majority of the positions. There are a couple right now, that are on hold, one of which, just occurred. We have one of the positions, the caseworker 3 position, that currently will become vacant on February the 15th, which is included in this, and we're looking at that position description because we may need to change their functions a little bit. So actually, we have made significant progress on where we are with our vacancies. We're moving right along with that. So if anybody's got any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer them. The other thing that I will say is we had a visit from Secretary Vosh last Friday. She visited the agency as well as, and she went to the health department. She was here for the SMILE meeting. She walked through the agency, talked to some of our staff, talked to us definitely about if we are not getting where we need, what the help we need from the NC Fast Help Desk, for me to escalate things to the head of the NC Fast Division. So we are doing that now on a variety of cases. We've done a few of those before that, but we have done 4 today. So she may be tired of us real quick.
She may wish she hadn't said that, huh?
Right, right. But, we were real pleased with the visit. The staff had the opportunity to share a variety of their concerns with her. And she did go over to the Human Services Center. That's where she was. So we were pleased to have her visit with us. So I wanted to let you know about that.
How about the report from you? Did you put that out?
Right, the report that you have given all of y'all is my report to the board. Put it in your packets, and basically it's information that you can have as you start working towards, trying to do my evaluation. I'm not prepared necessarily to talk about it, but certainly if anybody wants to ask any questions, we
But
can entertain
If
that.
you'll remember, we asked her to start giving us a report, sort of activities and meetings she attended and public speaking events, so that we sort of knew what she was doing in the community to help us gauge if she was meeting some of those benchmarks we set for her. And so she did, she ran that by me last week, and I said, no, put it out there so folks could get used to the style and see what you would be reporting. So that's just for information as we move forward, now that we have her evaluation tool set in place.
And it should be shorter on a month-to-month basis, since this was 6 months' worth.
Any other questions for Ms. Elliott? Okay,
We appreciate the good job you're doing. Just keep up the work and let's catch up.
Thank you, sir. We're gonna get there.
and as we've already used it as a reference, we do have the fraud and integrity reports in the agenda. I always forget, do we need to accept that for the record?
I would say do that.
So if, so moved by Ms. Williams, do we have a second? Second by Ms. Starkey to accept the integrity reports as included in our agenda on pages 19 and 20. All those in favor? Aye. Great. Any other item for the good of the cause, Mr. James?
No, I'm happy.
Ms. Starkey?
Is a motion to adjourn in order?
Ms. Williams? It
I'll
absolutely
make the
is.
motion to
so mad.
adjourn when it. when
We
it's
are
ready.
adjourned, and our next meeting, thank you for putting it on the agenda, is March the 10th in this room at 4 o'clock.